So here's my setup here. This is the Dallas TCXO. This is a little 10K, just pulling it high. And I've got that reading going into an oven-controlled universal counter here. And you can see that it's not even, the jitter bandwidth is less than, you know, 0.2 of a hertz, something like that. It's just an incredible chip. I thought this was going to be about the MEMS I put in the watch, which is over here, but it ended up being about how good this Dallas chip is. It doesn't matter, 3.3 volts all the way up to 5. It stays centered on exactly 32,768 hertz. I mean, on the money. Very low jitter. I've put some chip freeze on it. I've even put the heat gun on the lowest setting, and or you know, the reflow gun, and it just does not drift. It's even smart enough to know the epoch of the crystal, and you put the actual time, you program it into this chip via I2C, and it will compensate for the age of the crystal. As the crystal ages, it'll compensate for that frequency drift. Pretty neat for a $3 comes already on a board chip. To the left of this is the quartz crystal that came out of the actual G-Shock, and they don't do too bad a job either. It's very centered, right on the money. Of course, there's a lot of voltage and thermal drift, especially, you know, next to this Dallas chip. But it turns out they do a pretty good job. And the great thing about the G-Shocks is you can actually, there's a potentiometer in there that will let you adjust out some rate. You know, directly go into the crystal. You can adjust the voltage, which is a pretty neat feature, sort of a high-end feature for a watch you can find anywhere. And then up here on the left is the actual, there's actually two on there, the MEMS. You know, whenever you see world's best or world's smallest appended to something, or it always makes you curious. This is the world's smallest 32.768 kilohertz MEMS oscillator. I think they're in the iWatch. The deal is, though, every time I flowed one onto the board, I guess I'm overheating it, it drops a good couple of hertz. And I even got to the point where I made one just by heating the board. I don't have an oven, and you know, I'm not a reflow artist, but I seem to keep knocking it down every time I cook one. It still has, it's rated for 5 parts per million. These are, you can get them rated for 20 parts per million accuracy. I'm getting way more jitter than that, but it's and it's definitely off a couple of hertz to the point that even though the bandwidth of the jitter is quite high and it compensates thermally very well, it still centers, you know, over the course of, say, a month, to be very predictably, you know, a minute and a half or so slow every month. But it's been neat. It still consumes way less power than the quartz crystal next to it, and that's what's powering this watch right now. That little MEMS oscillator. Pretty neat.